All right, here we go. So, all right, Hayden Baillio, it's good to get to do this, man. So let's get started off. 3 minutes or less. Kind of give me a brief background on you, your awesome career, and a lot of different things. Hit me with it.
Yeah, well, as you know better than most, I grew up in a small town in North Texas called Wiceboro. Had a pretty awesome upbringing. Uh, Found out I was pretty good at track and field, and so ended up doing well in high school and getting to go to college on a scholarship for it at the University of Texas, and had a fairly successful career there. Made a couple USA track and field teams through at the 2012 and 2016 Olympic trials. Never made the team, but had an amazing run. Got to do a lot of cool things. Through that time, I lived in the weight room, and kind of my strength coach there was kind of my second dad. My dad away from home, and he had such an impact on me, and that I kind of was like, okay, well, I'm going the kinesiology route in college. That was after, by the way, I found out that he didn't have a culinary degree, because I was like, I'm going to cook, right? I was like, I'm going to take that route and just go, yes, right?
But would have been baller. It would have been baller.
It would have been cool, but yep. that didn't work out. So I ended up taking the kinesiology route, minoring in education, and then kind of after a pretty successful college career, I ended up transitioning to professional shot put for about 2 years. And along that time, I got my CSCS and kind of got mentorship from a lot of the coaches there at the University of Texas as I was still training there. And definitely thought, had my mind set on, I'm going to be a collegiate strength and conditioning coach. Fast forward a year after, I started going pro, and, sponsorship money doesn't exactly rein in on shot putters for, that are, even if you're top 20 in the world, it's not like you're going to be making any kind of real income. And so money got tight really fast, and I was like, okay, well, I need to find somewhere to work. And so kind of stepped into the private training world, started doing one-on-one. I was like, set my sights pretty high, and was like, I'm going to go high end. And so I ended up, managing my studio that I worked at there for a little while, and had a lot of great clients. And shortly into that, my throwing career ended. It was kind of just this bittersweet moment of like, man, I'm not progressing to go. And do I want to spend the next, 5 years trying to scrape on by and make this happen, or do I want to put all of this energy and time into something else? And so that's going to grow with me. And so that's the path that I took. Ended up meeting a lot of people when I was personal training. One of them was gracious enough to give a guy with no experience a pretty cool opportunity to do sales for a Fortune 500 company. And so I went, into software sales. And so along that time, though, I still was training people online, doing online programming. It's not exactly the ideal, scenario, but that's what I was doing. And I was teaching kids track and field. I was teaching track teams. I was helping out, coaching them, shot put, discus, and whatnot. And so
sprinters.
Yeah, pole walkers, right? That was my thing, right? Yeah, needed a telephone pole, right?
Yeah, telephone pole, exactly.
But so kind of fast forward another year or two, I had been trying all the strength sports. I wanted to, just get my feet in all the strength sports. I was a very strong guy already. And so I was like, well, I'll try powerlifting, I'll try strongman. And so I did a bunch of these sports, kind of got into the networks here down in Central Texas. And then I came across the Highland Games, and I was like, well, this is throwing, but it's like fun, and there's no stress, and I don't have to like treat it as a job. And, like people out here are just trying to drink a beer and throw heavy stuff for a weekend, And so it ended up just clicking. And the rest is what my modern history is right now, which is, started doing it full time, started training for it full time last year. Through the year, I've gone from 20th in the nation to number 1 in the nation, and started kind of saw a silo, or saw an opening there in the Highland Games world where there wasn't really a brand that represented it. So I took, we had I have a group of friends down here. We took some, we had some brainstorming sessions. We had some pump sessions, and I was like, I think I'm just going to come out with a brand, and we're just going to try and, and in all reality, one of my friends, he didn't like the job he was in. And so, and he screen printed on the side. And I said, well, I'll just do an apparel company. That'll be fun. It'll help with the Highland Games. Maybe one day we'll get enough volume that you can quit your job. And I'm probably way over 3 minutes now, but I'm just going to keep rolling with it.
You're good.
But maybe we'll get you out of the job that you hate, because I understand. I was a couple years in the corporate world and I hated it. It was a nice paycheck, but I really wanted to get back into doing things that were creative, that helped people, where I worked with people on a more regular basis. And so the Fraternity of Girth was born, which is my apparel company, FOG for short. And, through the past year, it's really grown quite substantially. And we had a lot of people from Highland Games world, and the Highland Games world is filled with athletes that, they might be in their early to mid 30s now, and they haven't done anything since high school. They had high school, then they found this sport again because they went to a Rin festival, but they love it and they want to do it all the time now, and they want to get better at it. And so you come across some pretty cool gyms, though, along that line. You have some people that were, great athletes that they just took the path of, I took 8 years off because I had a kid, and so it was cool. And so, along those lines, I was like, okay, guys, well, COVID had just popped up, and everything was shutting down. Gyms were shutting down, and we kind of started the Strength Syndicate, which is our online programming platform. And I, at the time, kind of pulled on my resources, the guy who was programming for me, because while I do program for individuals, as an athlete, I prefer somebody programming for me. And I think that's been a huge thing in my career. I've tried programming for myself, and I tend to program all the things that I am really good at, and none of the things that I'm really good at, right?
Every time. Yep.
And so I was, okay, my coach that programs for me, he's doing amazing stuff. Like I'm making strength gains that I've never made. And so, I asked him, I said, would you do some kind of template program for these people? And he hated that word, right? He was so against it, right? He had a solid lineup of one-on-one people, and that's the way he liked to train individuals. He liked to be engaged in their training, which I love too. But as we moved into this like COVID, time frame, I was like, I looked at him and I said, Joe, somebody is going to get them to program for them. They're going to buy something. And I guarantee you that more than likely, that guy doesn't care as much as you do.
Right. Or knows much.
Yeah, or knows as much. And so he finally called a bunch of his strength coach, mentors and friends, and just asking questions, and finally gave in, and we finally launched Strength Syndicate along with myself that programs for the Highland Games specifically, him that does strength and conditioning, and then we have two more of my friends, Gabe Pena, who's a professional strongman who does strongman programming on there, and then a gentleman named James Wasder who does bodybuilding programming, right? And so, all around, I picked these people, and I think this kind of leads into a little bit more about what the Strength Syndicate is. It's going to be good coaching. It's not going to be as good as if I was in front of an athlete, right? But I picked these coaches based on the fact that, and I feel like from a PT like yourself standpoint, you can respect this, is these individuals they weren't just going to wear people down, and that's
right.
we've had slow, we've had great organic growth, but we've had slow growth because people are like, wait, your program has me resting 3 days, 4 days a week. And I'm like, yeah, that's how much you need to rest. And it's hard.
You're taking money from the PTs, man.
Yeah, it's constant education that you have to pour into our little community. But when we get people that get riled up and they're like, well, I'm itching to work out today, and I'm like, well, that's not how you get strong. And so, anyways, I brought on a lot of like-minded people. Well, not just like-minded people. I love the different viewpoints, but people that I knew had a track record of taking care of their clients, making them strong, and also had a successful career of their own or are currently in one. And so that's kind of the 15-minute, 3-minute of what I've been up to and where we're at right now.
No, you're good. And that gives us a strong starting point. And I think it'll probably knock out some of this, but I think, how that motivates you as a coach and your staff. It sounds like y'all are obviously very motivated because that's the world y'all live in. I'm assuming the body, building guy probably is in that world. The strong man you mentioned, he is in that world. So, where do you feel like y'all's motivation comes from? How do you motivate them? It seems like probably it's easy, but I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, well, you're right. It's easy. I picked people that have a passion for making people strong, and making them strong for the long term. And that's what all of these guys, and I wouldn't have asked anybody, else. It took probably this long to my life to find the right people that I wanted to even bring on in that capacity, that I trusted with, what is essentially an extension of my brand that I want to run for a long time. I trust them with, making that brand, making it of higher value. And so these individuals, once again, you have as a coach, sometimes you have athletes that are self-motivated, and as a coach, sometimes you have athletes that need motivation. I would say that none of these individuals that are brought on as coaches or my staff, I would say, the air quotes for people listening, are they're all self-motivators, right?
Right.
I'm motivated because I created FOG and Strength Syndicate for a very general reason of providing a lifting crew for people that were on an island, community. I think community is a big deal when it comes to strength. And every time that I've ever had my best phases of strength gain has always been because I have 2 or 3 every workout. We're working out together. We're there together. And that team aspect was super huge. And something I missed from college that I didn't really realize until, track and field is it's a team event, but it's a singular event. I'm the only person that gets in the ring and throws a shot put. Nobody else throws it for me, right? And so, we can win a team Big 12 championship, but I can also win a Big 12 championship for myself, right? And so it was very individual oriented, but I don't think I realized until I left it that the team aspect of, especially in the weight room and especially at practices, was huge. It was a huge motivator, it was a huge pusher, and you grew so much faster when you had others around you. And so that's why I created Strength Syndicate. And and so that's what motivates me on a personal level is getting these people involved in that, because they just want to be better at their sport.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point there is the community aspect of it. I don't know if I can say the name, but the very popular HIT workout program is a community, right? They've done a great job of that. And so I think the community part, I think with the Highland Games is you found a great community there, and then bringing on those coaches that are targeting some of those other communities. I think that's awesome. And so,
we're a great company, man. That's what we do. We're into strength sports. So that's where we go. And that's our quote unquote niche. And that's what excites me is getting people strong.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so that kind of leads into, how do you motivate your athletes, or how do you, that some of them have, or maybe how do you create buy-in? Because some of them have taken off for a long time. So getting back into it, I'm sure there's a little bit of a curve there, but, how do you create that buy-in with them?
Yeah. And I mean, I would say that this has been one of the most difficult processes to learn. And, I'm still relatively new with Stream Syndicate. I've done one-on-one online programming for a couple of years, but like this kind of more group style, let's all do the same workout, let's all train together style is interesting because I do use an app, and I think I can say it on here because I use it, but it's Train Heroic.
I use it too. Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's
Heroic,
okay.
It's great because I get to see a compliance record, right? And this is not an ad for Train Heroic by any means, but I'm not getting compensated by Train Heroic. But
I'm not either, so it's okay.
But it's great because I get to see the compliance of the athletes, and I get to personally reach out. Missed 2 workouts this week. What's going on? And I think that's a really big deal. It brings when you start having multiple 10s and 20s and 30s of people in the same group working out, it can mean a lot when you engage with somebody individually. They don't feel like they're on an island. And so I think I've done a good job of motivating people by keeping them engaged in the process, keeping them up to date on where we're at. And as someone that's basically training general population people that were athletes at some point, found a sport and they want to get back to a certain shape or they just want to get better at the sport, I think that the biggest deal is just like keeping them up to date in the process and where we're at and letting them know what's coming. Because like I said, the way that we program is not always your CrossFit style. It's not always that type of style where I want you to come in and work out 7 days a week. That's not it. That's not going to get you where you want. That is in my opinion a money grab program that someone's not looking out for you. They're not looking out for you if they're asking you to train 5 or 6 days a week. That's not right. And and
there's different, and again, I think the other piece of that, there's different training styles. So like, what are you training for, right? So like what y'all are doing, strength, like you need full energy, and the only way you can get that is if you have rest days. And whereas conditioning athletes, like endurance athletes, like they do have to train more frequently. I got that. So, but I think that's cool that y'all are able to do that, and also, like you said, educate. So I think that leads me to my next question, like, what is your coaching style? Like there's the yell in your face, get you pumped up. There's a lot of different styles. Like what's kind of your approach as you coach different athletes?
I'm like I've learned a lot from coaching young throwers in my career, and everybody learns differently. And I've been able to pick up on that very well when it comes to, a one-on-one client in my career is, this individual, you try to relate to them on a certain level, right? When it's an individual, I try to relate to them. I know what they like, and I know how to make an analogy around what their hobby is or what their interests are and what I'm trying to achieve with them. On a bigger level like that, it definitely is harder, but it's not impossible. And I think I definitely am I'm not like a yell in your face. I'm definitely like a hype man. I'm a huge cheerleader for people. And like, the thing is that I've come to realize that like most people just want the support. Some people need yelling in the face, but
most the bar over your head kind of thing.
Most people most people just want like to feel like somebody is backing them. And I think this goes for any level of athlete because it happened multiple times when I was coaching high school kids for throwing. They just you don't know what's going on in their life, and at this point in my athlete's life, they're in their 30s, their late 20s, their 40s even, and they have full lives. They have much more going on than my high school throwers. But at a certain level, the connection and the experience of just having someone that's backing you 100% is as powerful at any age level, feeling like someone's got your back and someone believes in you. And so that's my thing. I'm a hype dude. I'm a cheerleader. Like, I want you to succeed. Nice. And I'm not going to sit there and make you do something that you're not motivated to do. You have to find them. Pushing to a goal only works so much. At one point, you have to want something so bad that it pulls you to it, and that's what I try to teach these people, right? Because pushing yourself out of bed, pushing yourself not to press the alarm clock, that works in the short term, but I don't personally believe it's sustainable. You need the vision, that long-term goal of like, that's what I want, and I just know that this is just a step. And also makes the little failures along the way easier to bear because it's not so detrimental,
That's cool. I like that analogy. I like that concept because I think that is probably something easily that you can talk to athletes about and kind of give them that vision, and they can kind of run with it. I like that. I like that.
Gotta have an obsession. That's how one of my mentors used to say it. It's like, it's got to be an obsession in front of you. You got to want that so bad. You got to put it in your mind. You got to visualize it so bad, exactly what you want, and that's going to help move you in the right direction every single day. And it's small degree increments every single day that get you there, not the full 180 turn. It's the
right. Yeah. No, I think spot on. So how do you kind of fine tune your craft? Like what kind of things do you read books, podcasts, just dig in research? Like what do you do? What's kind of your go-to?
Yeah. When it comes to the strength side, I've read a lot of books. I was blessed and humbled to be able to go to the University of Texas and train with a lot of great strength professionals. Along that way, I got to read a lot of books that I probably just wouldn't even known about if I wouldn't have been down there. I got to meet some amazing strength coaches like Al Dietz, like Dan Path, like these legend coaches that I got to see in person, go through the difference in feet, and how the foot reacts, and so there's
Cal Dietz. I'm a Cal Dietz guy too, so I like that. Yeah.
I love Cal Dietz. That was my first program that I did post collegiately after I left. After I got out of college, I was like, man, I'm gonna do triphasic. I'm gonna try triphasic.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I bought the Nintendo unit and everything. I wanted to measure velocity. It was a fun, it was fun, and Cal's a great guy, and you start to surround yourself with those people, and I consumed a lot like a sponge. But once you leave that atmosphere, I think that continually reading, some books that interest me. I'm not going to read books that don't interest me. That's just a thing that I have. It's just like, if it's not something that I'm interested in, it's not something that people that I train. So, I try to either find a way to make something, once again, I try to find something that pulls me in that direction. And so it's like, if I read this book, I'm going to be able to do this. Right. But, and then when it comes to the throwing side, the Highland Games, that's a lot of experimenting, man. The Highland Games is a ancient sport that until probably 10 years ago, with the likes of Matt Vincent and Dan McKim and these kind of guys that started coming up and doing YouTube and finally showing, it wasn't until like 8 years ago probably where you still had to get VHS tapes to learn how to do the Scottish hammer. You know what I mean? And so like, there's just not that much out there. And so there's a lot of trial and error, and there's a lot of experimenting, and I'm very open with all of the clients that I have. And I'm just like, here, listen, this is something we're going to try for a block. And I don't know if it's going to put any distance on. It could do nothing for us. Right. But like, this is what, we call it the bomb squad. We're the bomb squad, and because we're dropping bombs. Right. And it's just like, it's like, but we don't, I don't know if this is going to work. I've never done an event like this. I can tell you exactly what's going to help your stones, AKA shot put. I'll put on 5 shot put right now. I don't care where you're at. I can do it. But like, there are events like the Caber and like the Sheaf that it's just like, at some point we have to just experiment. And so there's been a lot of and a lot of tracking things and seeing, what really translates from the weight room out to the field, because you have to be conditioned. We have 9 events. It's a full day. If you want to throw good on your last event, it's a 12-hour day that you're out there throwing. And some of these events are like the high jump or the pole vault, where you get 3 attempts at each height. So you could throw 20, 30 times on a specific event.
Right.
I like to tell people that throwing is not a passive. It's not a passive, action. You can't throw softly. Like you're throwing for distance or you're throwing for height, then you're putting everything you got into it. It's a maximum vertical every single time. And so, you got to be conditioned. You got to be able to like recover and come out and do that again in a minute and a minute and a minute. And so that's been fun to just, kind of figure out, along with my coach that does the strength and conditioning part, like Joe, and just say like, well, what's really working? What's the good mix? Because I want to be strong. We throw heavy implements, but I also need to be able to be repeatable. So we do a lot of French contrasts and caldits and stuff like that, as well as a lot of conditioning phases.
See, and I think that's really interesting because like you're saying, this is like maybe it's the 8-10 years ago, maybe more popular now, but like, correct me if I'm wrong, like it's been done all through history. Right. And so it's one of those things that I think a lot of the strength and conditioning industry has evolved, bringing in research and like saying like, it's not just been done that way forever. Like, let's look and see if those ways actually do make sense. And so the Highland game, I think that's awesome that y'all are kind of that experiment phase, but I'm sure if there was enough money in it, there would be a lot of research. But like, I think that's cool though, that's how y'all are doing it, of pretty much you're testing and finding out what works. And eventually, in theory, right, you have the perfect plan. And so that's cool.
It's always going to be it's a journey, right? You're just always going to be learning something new about something. I mean, this year alone, I've changed up how I throw a certain implement 3 times. And, each one feels a little bit better, a little bit more natural for me. When you come into the games or you come into any sport, you have somebody that teaches you something, and if that's not been worked on for 200 years, if it's been done the same way for 200
right, exactly.
years, right, then, there might be room for improvement, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And we're always finding. So I think that's my next question is like, what do you guys do to further the strength and conditioning for the Highland Games kind of concept?
Yeah, so I've been meticulously tracking what how I program and the results that we're getting. I can't always make my athletes like measure or track whenever I need them to. Once again, these people have lives with kids.
Right.
I understand that, but tracking, it's really like it's one of those things where it's like someone's got to do it. So I can either wait for somebody else to do it, or I can just start, figuring it out. And so that's kind of what we're doing. I also try to post, there's several groups, like I said before we kind of started recording. It's not exactly a huge sport. You might have 10,000 athletes across the whole U.S. that do this sport. And so there's only a couple groups on Facebook that you even need to be in to like touch every one of them. Right. And, so I try to post videos and try to progress the things that I've been learning, and the things that I can definitely help the most with, which have been like the shot put style events, and say like, listen, this is where it's at, and specific things like, once again, the individuals that before they were throwing or before they had a structured program. They were just going out willy-nilly, tossing the hammer around, right? And it's like, okay, well, this next time let's go out and let's also bring a medicine ball and let's prime the body. Let's do some pre-activation. Let's get the thoracic moving, so that you don't just try to throw a 22-pound hammer around your body right off the bat, right? And people sit at their jobs or they're on their feet the whole time. And so, these are just things that I feel like are fun to navigate. And I say fun because it's a process to navigate all the different life factors. If somebody would have told me that how much more responsibility and stress you get as you grow older, Hayden. And so if somebody said that in college, I would decide not to grow old, right? Because that's because it's like it keeps pounding on. So I just have to. I think my unique position is that I have to really keep that in mind for the people that I program for. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is, I think that is a big piece of, a collegiate strength coach. I don't want to say it's easier. I'm not trying to minimize it. I'm just saying that your athletes are literally there to listen to you and do that's their job, right? Yeah. Versus you're dealing with what you're saying, amateurs, that have lives, I could see that. Yeah, exactly.
Being one of those athletes, I feel bad for my coach, right? But I agree. It's definitely a crazy thing to navigate. Okay, well, you have a kid and a job, and somebody in your family just went to the hospital, which is not no college kid's immune to that, but it's just like, okay, well, these individuals are getting older in age, and so you really have to, people. It's like, well, you didn't take your metformin today. It's stuff like that.
Right.
And it's like, so we need to talk. We need to figure out. Conditioning is even more of an important piece. So you have had to have that conversation with somebody of like, well, I know you want to throw further. Well, you're at least 80 pounds overweight, buddy. Like,
right.
We will throw further. Let's get some weight off you. So there's a lot of those conversations that are blunt and just to the point, and like, hey, you didn't do anything for the last 10 years, and then you tried to pick up sport. So let's just be realistic where we're at, and try to train where we're at. So
I'm going to hit you with a question, but from two different aspects. Obviously, you have a very decorated career in collegiate professional sports. So you've been the athlete side. And so, but then also you've created a strength coach position in this very unique niche. So my question is kind of, what would you give young strength coaches who are looking to go do things? And so give me one on kind of like your Highland game side, but the other, you've played in, like I said, collegiate and professional. Like, what are your two kind of things you would give young strength coaches?
Yeah. The thing I would give young strength coaches, I think it would be that, like every other profession currently in the world, there are inventive ways to do what you want to do and help people without doing the traditional route. And I think I feel that the most with Highland Games, because we're literally trying to reinvent how to throw certain implements that have been thrown that way for hundreds of years. And so how do we just make things slightly better? And for a young strength coach, I would just say, it's awesome. There's a clear delineated path, right? But for instance, your career, in the tactical side of things, right? That's not a path that goes like this. It has, it's up and down, it's over, it's diagonal. Sometimes you got to feel like you lost ground in order to get to a place where you want to be. And so I think telling young strength coaches would be kind of my overall is just, hey, you want to go do something, just know that there's not just one path to be a strength coach anymore. There's a lot of different ways to make people strong and to do what you love, and to make that happen.
Yeah. So you sound like which again, I'm kind of cheating a little bit, but with a Cal Dietz, but like you're kind of a functional guy. So like, I'm assuming that some of y'all's training programs, if you're, flipping the caber, like I'm assuming y'all do similar movements with weights to get that movement better and stronger, faster power, whatever. So
specificity, like Cal says.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, excuse me. But yeah, so like I hear that side of it, and I 100% agree. And I kind of talked about this last time on my podcast, but finding that little specialty that that world can increase your passion. Maybe I shouldn't say passion, because I think there's strength coaches that maybe never played a down of football that are super passionate, awesome strength coaches. But I'm just saying that I think that finding that your little area, you can be a strength coach in a lot of things. So I think that's awesome. You've done that. What would you give that strength coach that's coming in to be your coach at the University of Texas as a shot putter? Do you have any words of wisdom for those younger strength coaches?
Yeah. Wow. There are a lot of different athletes that come into a college. So just you have to be just as much a psychiatrist and as you do have to be a strength coach. These I saw it firsthand with a lot of my teammates. I saw it, I felt it with myself. You get more when you get to know your athlete, and it's going to be harder. I can only imagine from from a football coach perspective, right, where you have 100 athletes. Right. It can be hard to get to know every single one of them. Right. But it means so much more to that athlete when you do that. I'm a big believer of that aspect of they're going to work harder for you. They're going to listen to you more. They're going to make mistakes because it's college and they're dumb. We all were there. But they're going to make mistakes. They're going to do stupid stuff. They're going to come in drunk to Saturday, workouts, and you just gotta be who you are, and be the strength coach that you want to be, but just be understanding and have that slight bit of empathy about where they're at, and be their friend. And at the end of the day, be their friend, because you'll get more out of them. And I felt like that's what I had at Texas with my strength coach, and that's what all the throwers had. We had a great relationship with them, and because of that, I think it just elevated our whole team to be one of the best throwing teams in the world, with my teammate currently now, being a 2-time Olympic gold medalist in the shot put, right? And so you create that atmosphere whenever you become a trusted figure in their life, and not just somebody that bosses them around all the time. You have to boss them around. Sometimes you have to, but being the figure in their life that they can also come to if they have an issue, a real issue in their life, and they feel like they can come to you. That's a big deal. And it's just I think I listen. As I was listening to previous podcasts, I forget which coach it was, but he did mention that. He said, listen, you're always going to have amazing athletes. He's like, but the best part about it sometimes, or at least why I love it, is watching that kid that is screwed up when he comes to college and leaving a good human being. And that's the type of power that a coach has in general. High school coach, whatever coach it is, they have that power to transform a young individual and mold their mindset. And that's super powerful. I've seen what kind of benefit it's had in my life after sports, after, in my relationship, in my marriage. That's what I'd say is young strength coaches, get to know the athletes.
That's cool. Yeah, obviously. I mean, the psychosocial part is huge. I mean, it's creating that buy-in, exactly what you talked about earlier. I mean, it's research has shown it's a massive, very important piece, and so that's cool. That's not what I was expecting your answer to be. So I'm glad I asked that question, because I was that's cool. That's cool. It's good to hear. So, well, do you have any other words of wisdom or anything else you have to share?
Oh man, I really appreciate the opportunity to come on. This was awesome. I would say, if you're listening to this, go do a Highland Games. It's fun. Go experience one and have a little fun on a weekend at your local Celtic festival or something like that. That's my PSA for spreading Highland Games around the nation. Because they're just a hell of a lot of fun, and changing up your training and changing up your all of your just changing your mindset a little bit. But yeah, man, that's all I got. This was fun, dude. Thanks, Jake.
Yeah, man. No, it was good. It was good. And I know we talked about it obviously before we started recording, but I even second that. I think in the strength and conditioning world too, that's something awesome to go do on the weekend. Like the one I did back in December, I mean, it was such a blast. They can be a lot of fun. And I think, especially from the strength and conditioning perspective, we like to lift and do heavy things. And so like, it's a good time. So, but yeah, dude, thanks for getting on. It was really good. And dude, I'm sure everybody's going to enjoy getting to listen to it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Thank you,
right,
Sid.
thanks, brother.
And thanks, Jake.
Later.
Bye.